targeted training. Our customer success team, who will be working with you regularly to make sure that you are continuing to get that value from Sumo, with which you have so heavily invested with us in order to be a partner to help you with your business. And feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions, and I'll help you out and point you in the right direction. I guess the next question you guys ask is, who am I and what am I doing here? My name is Taffy Makamure. John, if you could kindly move on the slides. My name is Taffy Makamure, one of the senior engineers at Sumo Logic based out of Europe. And my contact details, you will see Taffy at Sumo Logic. Again, feel free to reach out to me. We do have John Meredith, who is one of our senior trainers who will be taking you through the course, as well as Odell Gordon, who will be supporting with that. Today, I will be the main contact who will be within the chat, answering and responding to questions that may be asked as our trainers are delivering the session. And then tomorrow, my colleague Ulf Andreasen, who is based out of Sweden, will be taking over and will also be assisting with that. But again, thank you so much. And I am looking forward to this session with yourselves. Over to you, John.
Thank you, sir. So my name is John Meredith. I'm based here in the United States, specifically on the US East Coast. So the sun has not come up yet. That's why my room looks a little dark, but that's another story. My home office. It'll brighten up throughout the day. Don't worry. Again, want to welcome you all to this session. And as a trainer, my only ask of you is if you have a question, please let us know. Okay. The other person here is involved in the class is one of our other trainers, Odell. You want to say hi, Odell?
Good morning and welcome. We're glad to have you here, and please ask questions. John has so much information to share with you. So we're here to support you and make your transition or your move to Sumo Logic very easy.
Thank you, Odell. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into this. I'm going to stop the streaming video here just to save some bandwidth. So what we have found through lots of research is that people who actively get involved in the training and not only take the training, but also take the certification, they use the product more. They, are able to do more with the product. They're able to, do a lot of things. So taking the certification will more than double your abilities, right, to do some of the things that you want to do. And again, this is one of 10 certification classes that we have. Today, we're going to go over kind of an overview, a harbor tour, if you will, of the product. Tomorrow, we're going to focus on security analytics. So we're going to write queries based on security needs. And we're going to focus on that. And we'll talk a little bit later about what's coming down the pike as far as other sessions. Again, who's here today? Well, we're represented by 22 different companies in 17 different cities in both the DevOps and security areas throughout Europe. And there may be other folks here as well from outside of Europe, but the focus of this session is really to support our European customers. So again, the only thing we ask of you is, please, if you've got a question, feel free to ask, okay? Help us out. Also, this is an excellent opportunity to network for you all. You guys can compare notes and that sort of thing with regards to Sumo and help each other out. So just want to mention that to you. Game plan for today. Again, we're doing a little welcome introduction stuff right now, and then we're going to get into the fundamentals course. Probably about an hour or so into this, we'll take a break. Then we will finish up with the lecture portion after about another hour-ish, and then we'll have time to take the exam. So in this 3-hour session, there's basically 2 hours of lecture and labs, along with an hour for you to take the certification exam. I will say that the lecture and labs will probably run like 2 hours and 15 minutes, maybe. And then you'll still have an hour for the exam. So that's how it breaks down. Again, tomorrow we'll do the same sort of thing, but it'll be the cloud security monitoring and analytics class. So hope to see you there. I hope you've all signed up. If not, let us know and we'll point you in the right direction. One thing, we are encouraging our customers to get certified. So if you take this class, which you are obviously here and you're taking it, and after the class, you take the certification exam, There's a form link here that we will put in the chat box when we get around to the certification, that you can fill out the form, attach a copy of your certification, and send it to us, and we will send you a $15 Uber Eats voucher. Now, if any of you happen to be in India, we will send you a Swiggy voucher, okay? Comparable value. Now, one thing, we're having a little issue here with regards to processing. So this could take up to 1 business week for you to get. So please be patient with us. And by all means, take your certification exam, pass it, and feel free to submit this. One other thing, if you're sticking around for tomorrow's class, you can do both certification exams, fill them both out on the same form, and save yourself a little bit of work, and we'll send you 2 Uber Eats vouchers. So just wanted to make you aware of that. And of course, if you take any other certifications, we'd love to provide you a free lunch. So who says there's no such thing as a free lunch? Well, we think there is. All right, as far as upcoming things that are coming down the pike here, upcoming events, we're doing, again, the Cloud Security Monitoring Analytics course, again, the one that we're offering tomorrow. We're also offering it in the US on the 25th, as well as Cloud SIM Fundamentals and Cloud SIM Administration. So for those of you who want to get a deeper dive in our Cloud SIM product, we have courses there on the 26th and 27th. Then we're going to do an application observability workshop on February 1st, February 3rd, we're doing a metric basic workshop, and we're going to do search mastery, which is kind of the logical successor to this course, on the 16th. Now, the problem is most of these classes are scheduled for US time, which means they're running late for you all, but you're certainly welcome to join us. We will, every quarter, we always do some classes here in Europe. So, and also if your company has about 10 folks or better that would like some Sumo training, please reach out through your sales team, and we will gladly schedule a class for you, convenient for your times, and we will gladly conduct the training. So take advantage of that. And then, of course, we have an administration class coming on the end of February. So that's the schedule here of what's going on. So, all right. You will find that we at Sumo Logic have a Slack channel, slack.sumologic.com. It's a customer-facing Slack channel. And I would encourage you all, if you're using Slack, to join that channel. And you can post your questions, and there's a couple different channels in there. There's a Slack general, there's a, questions about learning Sumo and stuff like that. So would encourage you to take advantage and join that Slack channel and check it out. So is it still January in America? Right now, I hope it's March. So hang on a second. Let me just, hold on a second here. Did I, good. Okay. Yeah. Apologize, guys. I haven't had enough coffee yet this morning. Obviously this is March, and so I'm not sure about these dates. I'm going to have to talk to some folks about this. So bear with me. Apologies about that. Anyway, that takes care of the preamble. Let's go ahead and get in the course. Obviously, we are date challenged. I apologize for that. We will have that fixed before we do tomorrow's session. Let us talk a little bit about the Sumo Generalist Fundamentals Certification class. So, yeah. Yeah, we're coffee challenged here right now, but that's okay. Anyway, so again, our game plan here is we're going to go do a little demonstration into Sumo Logic. What is Sumo Logic and why do I care? We're going to show you a use case here. We're going to use Sumo Logic to troubleshoot a problem, and you'll find that we've got a great observability solution throughout Sumo Logic that lets us see across various cloud platforms, across various on-prem platforms, so you can see basically what's going on and be able to troubleshoot things fairly quickly. And the focus of this class is going to be pretty much hands-on. And so after we do the demonstration, and during the demonstration, you will not be logged in. We're not going to give you the access credentials to Sumo just yet. But once we get to the hands-on labs, we will, and we're just going to teach it through the product. So we're going to do 7 labs there. And then finally, like I said, the last hour portion will be dedicated to taking the exam. As I said, we will probably take a break in about an hour, somewhere between 15 minutes and an hour, just to kind of give you an idea of timeline. So it'll be a 5 or 10 minute break, not sure yet. Talked about the lovely Uber Eats program. Well, let that go. And so what does Sumo Logic do for me? Well, in my career, I've done a lot of things. Most importantly, or currently I love the role I have right now, which is training, but I have worked as a DBA, as a programmer, as a network admin. I've even worked a couple of jobs as an IT manager. And back in the days when I was an IT manager, I used to come in an hour early every morning and I'd check my backup logs. This is back in the mid 90s. I'd come in and check my backup logs, and I check my Active Directory logs to see who maybe got themselves locked out. And I check my email logs, make sure no emails bounced. And it took me about 45 minutes all in all to check all my logs. Real pain in the neck. Had I had Sumo back in the day, I could have easily looked at dashboards to see how are my systems doing? Are services running? What services are not running? What issues? Operational intelligence. I can see my environment, see what's happening. I can look at it from a security perspective. Who's logging in? Where are they logging in from? What kind of operating systems, browsers, whatever are they logging in through? Are people having problems logging in? What about my firewalls? Anybody trying to play any port games on my firewalls? That sort of thing. So you can build some dashboards and queries. And that's what we're going to talk about tomorrow, by the way. Focus on the security intelligence. And so I can see from a security perspective how things are going. And then, of course, you got a business perspective, right? Maybe you've got a website. Maybe you've got products that people are purchasing. What are they purchasing? What are they not purchasing? What is the behavior of your customers on your website? So you can see that thing from a business intelligence perspective. And at a very high level, we can look at operational intelligence, security intelligence, and business intelligence throughout the various areas of geography. So for example, if AWS Guard Duty reports to us that there's a certain attack going on in a part of the world, we might be able to see who's impacted and that sort of thing. Now, I'm going to assume that as far as down here where it says your people, I assume that you all have a role that requires you to learn or helps you to learn, inspires you to learn Sumo Logic, okay? Whether you're DevOps or you're in security or whatever, I'm sure that you probably have this need. As far as your data, again, your data can be in various applications. It can be in various microservices. You could be on the cloud or on-prem. Doesn't really make any difference to us. As long as it generates logs or metrics, we can ingest that. We can process that. We can basically make sense of it all. Help you make sense of it all. If you're running software as a service, something like Salesforce or Office 365, you can see how your folks are using Salesforce or Office 365 or Zoom for that matter, right? Another software as a service. Various mobile devices and a whole bunch of various third-party applications and things. As far as Sumo Logic goes, we are born in the cloud, raised in the cloud. We are a software as a service, okay? We support multi-tenancy. We will scale up as you need to automatically. If you don't need the resources, we'll scale it back down. So we automatically scale for you to help you out. We have a bunch of machine learning and advanced analytics in the product. You'll see a little bit of that in this class today, and you'll see a lot more in future classes. Actually, some tomorrow too. We also have a bunch of APIs, application programming interfaces. They allow your programmers to make hooks into Sumo. So you could programmatically create collectors, create users, run queries, do all kinds of neat things through our API set. Probably the most important thing, and the thing we're probably most proud of within our product, is this security and monitoring. We work with great rigor to maintain SOC 2 compliance, PCI compliance. We are certified FedRAMP moderate authorized, which probably in Europe, you're not too worried about. That's a US thing, but we work with great diligence to ensure that these certifications are maintained and meet with the highest standards. So it's a little bit about what Sumo Logic is. As we said, if you've got any questions as we're going through this, feel free to ask. Now, if you don't mind, I'm going to stop the slides here. And rather than doing this through PowerPoint, I'm going to do this kind of real time. Now, I go into Slack. We happen to use Slack at Sumo. We could have used Teams, but we use Slack. Fine. In here, I can see that I'm getting some alerts. I'm getting some problems. Now, this alert says we have a problem with our gateway response time outlier. This is on prod 09. Here's my time range. And I can click on either one of these two things to open up a dashboard. Now, because you probably may or may not have seen Sumo, let me open the dashboard manually just so you can see what's going on rather than clicking on this link. I want you to understand the process and how it's happening. So if I go to my trusted SD web browser here, and if I switch over to my demo environment here real quick, here's where prod 9 and prod 8 are. Now, here in prod 9 or prod 8, this is my Sumo Logic environment. This is my navigation panel. We'll talk more about it. Down here is my main menu. But here in my navigation panel in my library, which is an area that we can all access, I see that we have a production travel logic folder. Here in my production travel logic folder, here I see prod 08 and prod 09. And if I open up prod 09, I can see how my business is doing from a business perspective. I can see how we're doing from a security perspective. But what I want to focus on right now is operations. It sounds like this error, I've got a problem. I've got an operational issue. Something is wrong. So I'm going to go into my operations folder here, and I will start with my operational overview. So when I click on this operational overview, it automatically gives me this dashboard. And of course, the dashboard is color coded. Green is good, yellow is questionable, red is bad. And so I can see, my nodes are reporting in, and I can see my database errors and weights are all good. But I see this poor checkout service is running over 6.16K, 6,000 errors in the last 60 minutes. That is not a good thing, okay? By the way, had I clicked on this button back in Slack, it would have taken me to this dashboard. Now, from this dashboard, I want to investigate. I want to see what's going on. I want to fix it before my boss wakes up, right? So I can click on this and it will take me to another dashboard. This is my services detailed dashboard. And here in my services detailed dashboard, I have a series of panels. These panels all represent a separate query. So here's a query, down below, here's a query, down below, here's a query. There are 6 queries in here. There's 6 panels. So when we build a query today, we will then turn it into a dashboard if we want to, and add it to a dashboard as a panel. Now, the nice thing about these panels is if I want to, I can click and turn things on or turn things off. And what I'm noticing is that as far as my bookings go, my bookings are going great. And by the way, this is a fictitious company where we book travel and we book airfare and cars and all that fun stuff. And it looks like my bookings are going great. And then all of a sudden they fall off and I'm starting to get errors. Starting to get failures. And then this is one of those problems that goes away and it fixes itself. So this is one of those crazy problems we usually drive ourselves crazy trying to troubleshoot. Now, down here, I can see that I've had errors right now today. This is my error today line, my orange line. If I turn that off, I can see the previous 7 days I have not had errors. So good news, the system's been running great. Bad news is it's now suddenly coughed a furball and I got to fix it, or I got to understand what's going on here. So I can see again, something happened here at 4:30 a.m. Now, again, this is all set for my local time. So that's basically what's going on. Here I can see my errors by node. And so here I can see the issues here of my travel worker node generated 226 errors. Here I can see various latency. And again, I can use these if I want to turn on or turn off certain nodes to select the stuff that I want to see. Here I can also see latency as far as the average of my latency. And I see all of a sudden about 4:30 this morning, it started spiking up. Kind of makes sense. If I'm having errors, I'm going to take longer to process things. And then up here, I'm looking at my CPU and total memory, okay? So first of all, this dashed line up here is my memory usage. And I see my memory usage spiked about 4:30 in the morning. And my CPU, some of my CPU services spiked as well. My travel admin service spiked. Various nodes and stuff here spiked. And so what I want to do is I want to investigate this further. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this particular query right here, and I want to look at the underlying query that makes this up. So I'm going to click on this little icon right here, which is then going to take me to the underlying query that represents this. And here I am seeing my results, and I'm seeing what made up my results. So here I'm looking at some metrics. Specifically, I'm looking at my CPU metrics and my memory metrics. My memory is this dashed line up here. My CPUs are all listed here as well. Now, when we do a metric query, not only can I look at certain metrics, but I can also correlate it against my logs. So down here, we're also looking at our travel checkout service logs, specifically for the words error or exception. Error or exception. And what happens when I have both metrics and logs in the same query? It generates this heat map. And you're going to find this is going to be a test question on the exam. So let's make sure you get it right. Okay. So the intensity of the orange shades here denote when it gets, the darker the orange, the more number of messages I have during that 1 minute time frame. So here's a minute where I have 424 error messages with either the word error or exception. Before that, I didn't have any. Before that, I didn't have any. Before that, I didn't have any. But each one of these represents a minute. And by the way, here, my query is lasting 60 minutes. So again, this is 60 minutes across, but I can see there's a period up here where I'm generating a bunch of errors. Any questions so far? Okay, so what I want to do is I want to investigate this a little bit more. What I can do in here is I can hold down my shift key, click on this heat map, and it's going to take me into the underlying log query. Now, you're going to find that metrics, and another test question coming up here, metrics tell us what is going on, but logs will always tell us why things are happening, why it's occurring. So here, when I clicked on that one spot, let me go back to this, I shift clicked on that. It looked at this particular minute from 4:31 to 4:32 a.m. This minute, I want to see this data. And that's what I have here. I have this particular minute. Now, this is great in the fact that it'll probably show me the error, but I want to see why I'm getting the error. And because I'm filtering out what I'm filtering here, I may not understand why the system booted up and behaved the way it did. So what I want to do is I want to change two things. One, I want to change this time range and go back and see the last hour, last 60 minutes. Okay. And we'll talk a little more about this later, but you can select certain times here, or if you want, you can type in the times that you want. If you want to go back 45 minutes, it's a minus sign, 4 or 5, M for minutes, D for days, H for hours, pretty simple stuff. Also here under custom, I can have a date picker, date and time picker, but I'm going to go back 60 minutes. Then I'm going to click on this button to rerun this query. So now I'm looking at the last 60 minutes and I have 6,162 results. Again, another test question. In the results section, when you're looking at this, this is how many log messages you're getting back. You're getting back here 25 log messages on this one page times 247 pages. It's going to yield you about this number. And yes, if you want to, this is not a test question, but if you want to, you can go in here and you can go in here and change how many messages you display per page. Okay. One of the things, and I'm going to steal this from my partner here, Odell.
Sorry, could you say that again?
Sorry. One of the things I'm going to steal from my partner, Odell, is, when you get into our tool and you start playing around, we recommend you kick the tires, you look around, hey, what's this, what's that, get a sense for what's happening. Okay. Now, one thing I want to do here just for fun is I also want to remove the word error exception. Why? Because I'm only going to see things with the word error or exception in them. I'm not going to see if there was a problem with a boot up that didn't generate the word error or exception. So let me backspace over this in my query. Let me rerun my query again. Now, again, I can click on this button or I can just hit the enter key on my keyboard. Now what I'm seeing is I'm seeing a lot more messages, 27,368 messages. By the way, besides the number of messages, I can also see its status, how long it's taking, whatever, done gathering results, how long it took, my results, and then my session ID. And the session ID is handy in case you call tech support, you're having a specific issue. They want to know what your particular session ID is so they can see what's happening. Now, I've got a bunch of data here. I've got 27,000 messages, and I don't want to scroll through 27,000 messages. Good news. With Sumo Logic, you don't have to. This little button here called log reduce. If you click on log reduce, you'll notice up here it appends to this query a pipe and then the command log reduce. What log reduce will do is it will combine your like messages together, and it will sort them in descending order. So this will take a few seconds because it's retaking over the last 60 minutes all of your log messages. It took 19 seconds here. So I can see out of my 27,000 messages, 10,936 of those messages are this message. And this message looks like a trace statement. If I looked at it and stuff like that, it looks like some programmer wrote a trace statement into his or her code to track certain information. Where I see these stars, that's different value. So again, there's 10,000 of these. The gateway credit may be different. The transaction ID may be different. The source ID may be different. That sort of thing. So this is informational. This is informational. Okay. This is a boot up message. Come back to that a little bit later. Again, informational. Here we go. Error. So I have 867 of these messages. Error. Bad handshake. SSL routine. Get server certificate failed. Looks like it's being invoked by a Python script. Okay. .py. So, as you all probably know, when you do some sort of a credit card transaction, the system that processes your credit card goes out to a system that's going to approve it or not approve it. And there's public key infrastructure used to encrypt that data. So we send your credit card information across the wire, it's all encrypted, it's all safe, right? And so whatever reason, this could not generate the server certificate. So it could not encrypt the data, therefore it could not process those credit cards. So here I have a very strong indication here that for whatever reason, my certificate failed. Now, the obvious question, why did my certificate fail? Did it flat out expire? What caused it to fail? Okay. And so I need to look some more. Now I can sit there and continue to scroll down here, or if I want to, I can go up here to count and I can flip, instead of sorting it descending, I can sort it ascending. And here what I'm looking for is I'm looking for information that might give me an insight as to what happened. So I'm going to start perusing these logs here a little bit, so bear with me a second. There is a specific log message here I'm looking for. There it is. Okay. This happened to occur twice. This is my boot process. So when we booted up this system, we booted up our Travel Logic app on a specific cluster, and two different clusters, two different names. That's why the stars are there. My checkout service, and it says version 1.14 dev. 1.14 dev, this is a prod environment, right? Everything we saw in here was prod 09, prod, whatever. It's prod. But yet this query is telling me there's a problem in my dev environment. Now it's becoming clearer to me. Did somebody promote a dev environment to prod and not check the certificate? So now I've got a pretty good idea what the problem is. It's my certificate, my PKI certificate. I know now how to direct actions to fix this. Hey, go into the prod environment, check the certificate, replace it. And then the issue is, looks like somebody promoted a dev environment to prod without changing that certificate. In fact, if I'm really smart and I work with my developers, I could go in here and I could start recording their pipeline information, their build and deploy pipelines, so that I can sit there and get logs in here about the various builds and stuff that they do. And so I could capture that data, and therefore I know maybe who did the build, who promoted this from dev to prod or whatever. Okay. And so that is the purpose of our demo. So let me switch environments here for a second. Let me go back here. and hit my slides. And let's go ahead. And again, we started with an alert, high level alert, and we were able to see it through Slack or whatever. We went to a high level dashboard. And then inside that dashboard, we clicked on it, took us to a lower level dashboard. Inside there, we had some panels that we clicked on. We looked at a metric which identified what is going on. Remember, that's what metrics do. And then we went and were able to look at the logs, and the logs tell us why it is happening. Again, some test questions here trying to help you out. And that's what we did. Are there any questions about that demo? Any questions at all? All right, then let's talk about the Sumo Logic data flow. In order to use Sumo Logic, there are basically three phases that we go through. The first phase is data collection. We got to get stuff coming into Sumo Logic. We got to get data coming into logs, metrics, all that data has to come in. And you'll find there are two things that make data collection work. There are collectors and there are sources. Now, collectors are real simple. They've got one job and one job. Well, actually, not one job. They got three jobs. Their job is to compress, encrypt, and send the data. So think of a collector as the highway under which your data goes into Sumo Logic so that you and I can query it and search it and all that fun stuff. But collectors simply allow you and me to see what's going on inside of Sumo Logic, or send the data to Sumo Logic. It encrypts it, compresses it, and sends it. Now, within these collectors, you've got sources. They're your various log sources. You know, if you're on the cloud and you want cloud trail logs, great. You want S3 logs, great. You want CloudWatch metrics, CloudWatch metrics, great. Whatever sources that you want within that collector, you can basically bring in. So the sources are the sources of data. Now, once we've got data coming into Sumo Logic, now we can write queries. Now we can start seeing the data. We can start seeing what's going on. We can start aggregating that data and create some sort of bar charts, line charts, map charts, some sort of visualizations. And then we can take those visualizations and we can add them to our dashboards. We can also create various alerts to be notified when there's a problem. So these are the three phases: data collection, searching and analyzing, and visualizing and monitoring. It's the process that we're going to play with here for the most part. As far as collectors go, I mentioned the collectors were the highway under which things happen. Two broad categories of collectors. There's a hosted collector, which is hosted by Sumo Logic. Test question. It is hosted, maintained by Sumo Logic. You don't have to worry about it. You don't have to install it. If you're on the cloud, you're going to run a hosted collector. I don't care if you're on AWS, Azure, you could be on Office 365, Salesforce. It's going to be a hosted collector. You don't have to install anything. You don't have to do anything. Besides hosted collectors, there's also installed collectors. These are lightweight Java-based applications that you can install on each and every machine that you want to bring log data or metric data over. And again, it will take that log and metric data, it will encrypt it, compress it, and send it into the Sumo Logic environment so that you can run queries and stuff against that. Now, as far as installed collectors, as I said, you can install it on each machine, or if you want, you can also install a consolidated installed collector on one machine, and then have these other logs forward their logs to this machine. Again, it will encrypt, compress, and send up to the Sumo Logic cloud. Now, if you want to know more about collectors and all that fun stuff, I would encourage you to sign up for our administration class. That's where we go into installing collectors and creating collectors and using collectors and all that good stuff. So, but this is how we get data in here. Now, not only do we get data in here from these collectors, but we also have metadata tags that we use. So I've got a bunch of collectors, I got a bunch of sources. If I want to create a query and say, I want the information from such and such collector, underscore collector equals, and then the name of that collector, or underscore source equals, and the name of that source. There's a couple of others in here. This one called source name. I recommend that you write it down. Source name, it's the name and path of a log file. Why do I recommend you write it down? Because you're going to see it in the form of a test question, okay? The answer in the test question is a little bit different. It's a little more verbose, but it's basically the name and the path of the log file. So if I want to look for a specific log system, I can say underscore source name equals, and then the name and path of that particular source name. But you'll notice the bottom one is bolded, which means the bottom one's really got to be important. And it is. As a best practice of these metadata tags, we recommend you use source category more than the others. Why? Because you can freely configure source category in your environment. When you create a source, you can define its source category. And we recommend that you follow a structure that says, maybe I want to grab my environment, my system, system environment. Maybe I got a dev environment, a prod environment, a QA environment. And then / inside that prod environment, I have my web servers. So I could say web servers or Apache or whatever. And then / what web servers, what logs, whatever. And you can add other slashes as you need to. But you're going to start with some major assembly, major environment, go to a subassembly, go to a further subassembly. And as necessary, go to a further subassembly. So that you can specify your environment in some sort of a slashed structure from large to small. So that's what we're going to recommend, and that's what we're going to do in class. You're going to find that we'll poke around and look at lab/Apache access logs, as well as error logs and other things. Speaking of that, why don't we get into the Sumo Logic training environment? Now, what I'd like y'all to do is I'd like y'all to fire up a Google Chrome or a Firefox browser. So go ahead and launch Google Chrome or Firefox browser. And for the URL, I'd like you to type in service.sumologic.com. That's service.sumologic.com. By the way, I'm going to put this information into the chat box to make it easy. So if you want to copy and paste it from the chat box, you can. Now, the next thing I want you to do is I would like you to pick a 3-digit number, any 3-digit number that you want, okay? I'm sure somebody in the United Kingdom probably wants to be 007. So 007, knock yourself out. I'd like you to take whatever number you're going to choose, and I want you to type it in the chat box. So if you want to be 007, type in 007 and hit it in the chat box so we know what numbers you're taking, okay? So pick a 3-digit number, okay? And so you're going to log in as training plus analyst, and these 3 hashtags you're going to get rid of. You're going to replace with that 3-digit number at sumologic.com. So let's show you how this works. I am going to go out here, if you'll bear with me just a second. Let me do a little housekeeping here. I am going to log out here right now. And I'm going to, just for argument's sake, grab training plus analyst, and I'm going to grab number 985. You may ask, why 985? Well, that was the whole number of the Navy ship, last Navy ship I was on. I'm a retired Navy guy, so I'm going to grab 985. If somebody's going to grab that number, that's fine. You can have it. I'm just going to show you how to log in. So you're going to log in as training plus analyst with that 3-digit number at sumologic.com. Please don't forget the at sumologic.com. And then here, the password is capital LEARNING, numeral 2, exclamation mark. And for those of you familiar with Google Chrome, know that you can display this. And there it is. And I click sign in, and it should let me in. And so you and I can log in here to Sumo Logic. Now, a couple things. This is our training environment. It's public. You can access it. You can access it today. You can access it tomorrow. You can access it next week. No fuss, no muss. I will tell you that the passwords will change on the first Monday of every month. Okay. So in a few weeks, our password will change. If you're curious, if you want to access our training environment and you want to know what the password is, I don't know what the password for April is going to be yet. I won't know until we change it. However, here is my contact information. I'm putting it in the chat box. So you can reach out to me and ask me, and I will gladly share you what that password is after we change it. I won't know what it is until we change it. Okay. But I want to make sure you guys all get a chance to log in. And when you log in, you may see some tabs open here. You may not. Don't worry, we'll fix all that in just a few minutes. But when you are all logged in, I'd like you all to raise your hand. So here in the Zoom, there's a capability for you to raise your hand. I would like you all to raise your hands when you're all logged in. So right now I've got about 10 out of 19 who are logged in. By the way, just for fun, I'm going to sign out with this account. I'm going to log in with my account. The reason being is I have administrative rights in case any of you guys get locked out, there's problems. Most importantly, if you're having problems logging in, let us know. Let us know in chat, unmute your mic, let us know. We want to try to help you because from now on, we're going to be doing everything in the environment. We want to play here. We want to see what's going on, okay? So again, if you're logged in, please raise your hand if you haven't done so already. And we're going to go from there. I realize that some of you are probably distracted by your day jobs and maybe you're not logging in right now. Maybe you've got things going on. I get it. I understand. So if you're not, you know, that is what it is. But right now I show 10 people logged in, ready to go. Is anybody having any problems, any issues, any concerns?
Hi, John.
Hey.
Here. Yeah, I just missed the part where you said I have to put a number for analyst. What should I put it?
Whatever 3-digit number you want, sir.
Okay.
3-digit number of your dreams. So. And Odell put that information in the chat box as well.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Give me 2 minutes and I'll be in also.
No problem. Come on in. The water's lovely. We don't want to leave anybody behind. And as I said, you guys can use this environment to play around and poke around. In fact, all of our labs are based on this environment, okay? So if you try to use our labs with your environment, you probably don't have the same data we're using. So the results will look very, very weird if, you know, whatever. So if you want to do our labs, you want to use our environment, okay? Just to kind of give you a heads up there. All right. Nevid, are you able to get in?
Just 1 second. I'm already there.
Okay.
Just note down the credentials.
Okay.
Why is it not anything from chat not getting copied? I don't know why. Is it?
Oh, actually, there is a setting both on our end and your end. Our setting's set, but your Zoom folks may not give you the ability to copy out of chat.
Ah, that's why. Okay.
So it's a security thing.
I'm not. Okay.
It's a security thing. So it's well intended, I'm sure.
Sumo Logic.
All right. Yeah. So if you have to type it in manually, it's type it in manually. And again,
And the password is the same.
If this helps, so I'll put the little screen back here so you can see what we need to type in.
Yeah, learning 22 exclamation. Okay.
So Navid, let me know when you're in.
You should be seeing me now.
Good. Okay. Well, that's fine if you're in. Okay. I'm going to lower all the hands, folks, and I'm going to assume everybody who wants to be in is in. Okay. So like I said, I'm going to lower all the hands here. And we're going to go ahead and press forward. So now I'll come back to the slides for just a couple things to point out, but let's talk about this interface. First thing you might notice is on my interface, this left side is open. Maybe your left side is open, maybe it's not. I'm going to close mine just to show you how to open it. So up here where it says Sumo Logic, I have this hamburger menu or stack of pancakes or whatever you want, slices of cheese. You can click on it and it opens it up. This is called the navigation panel. The navigation panel. And in the navigation panel, here's my library where you and I can see things across our company. This is stuff that your administrator wants to share across the company. Could be folders, could be dashboards, could be queries, could be whatever. That's where it's organized. Then you have stuff in your private folder. So every user has a private folder, and this is where you can save things that you want to keep And even if it's in your private folder, you'll find out here in a few minutes that you can still share it with others in your organization. So if even it's in your private folder, you can share it with others. This area right here is your favorites. And to mark something as a favorite, it's real simple. I'm going to go back here. I'm just going to grab an object here randomly. It's got a hollow star. I'm going to click on that hollow star to fill it in. That adds it to my favorites. It's now part of my favorites. I don't want it to be a favorite anymore. I click on the star again, hollow it out. It removes it from my favorites. You can see it's pretty easy to use. And then here I can see recents. I can see things that are recently opened by me, or I can also see things that were recently shared with me. So I can look at things either from what I've last opened and played with, or what somebody's recently shared with me. So that's my recents. And again, I can either in my library or in my folder, I can filter by whether I'm looking for metrics, dashboards, whatever, created by, shared with, all kinds of nice little tags there. Okay. Down here is my main menu. I'm going to get into that in just a little bit. Over here in my Sumo Logic environment, if you happen to have a lot of tabs open, the last person who logged in with your account left a bunch of tabs open. Just to do this, I'm going to go ahead and simulate and open up a bunch of tabs, even though there's nothing really in here. Okay, I'm just going to open up some things. If you got a bunch of tabs opened up, if you click on any one of those tabs, you'll see there's these three vertical dots. And on these three vertical dots, you'll see you have an option to close all tabs. So if somebody left you in a mess, you can go up there and say, I want to close all tabs, and that gets rid of all the tabs. Okay. Now here on the Home tab, where the house is, there are three subtabs: Home, Learn, and Certification. Okay. I'll talk about certification as we get close to the end of the class, but I want to focus on the Learn tab. So here in the Learn tab, we have a whole bunch of micro lessons that run 5 to 10 minutes. And so, for example, if you want to learn how to install a collector, we got a micro lesson for you. You could actually go out to YouTube and you'll find that we have a Sumo Logic channel that you can subscribe to, and you can see our various micro lessons and our micro lesson collection. And you can have a great time playing those. Some people like that sort of teachable moment type stuff. Furthermore, down here, you'll see I've got my hands-on labs for the fundamentals class. We're going to come back to that. These are the labs that you and I are going to do here over the next hour. Over here, I also have labs for my administration class. We'll show you where the labs are in other areas tomorrow, where the other labs and stuff are. Here, I've got a section for cheat sheets. So if I click on this little box, and again, if you've lost me, I'm in the Home tab here. I clicked on Learn. Down here, there's something called cheat sheets. And when I open it, it takes me to my log operator cheat sheet. These are a bunch of operators that we use when we write log queries. And if you want to, there's a PDF version at the end of this paragraph that you can click on that you can print out and put next to your keyboard. So you'll find that we've got a log operator cheat sheet. We also have a metric operator cheat sheet if you're writing metric queries. And they both have PDF versions. Back to my Sumo Logic environment. Here's our documentation. So you can click on Docs, and that will take you to our documentation. Another way to get to our documentation is open up a new tab, type in help.sumologic.com. That's help.sumologic.com. Here in that area, there's a section here under the first chapter, which is Start Here, where it says Quick Start Labs and Tutorials. This is where all of our labs are. So if you're curious about tomorrow's class, you just can't wait, you can go in here and see those labs. You want to see the labs for Search Mastery, you can see the labs and you can go through the labs. Okay. So that's where that information is. You want to see what's new with the product, you can see that as well. You want to see what's on a training schedule, there's Get Training. You can ask for support. In fact, not only can you click on this to ask for support, you'll find that if I go into my Sumo Logic navigation panel, Here in the main menu under help, I can also get to documentation. I can also get to support. I can also get to community here. And so you can also click on support here. You can send an email to support@sumologic.com, or you can go to the following URL, support.sumologic.com, to get to support. Now, why do I mention all this? Again, there's a test question about how to access support. And the answer is all of the above, okay? We want you to pass the exam, all right? Pure and simple. Now, there's one other little thing I want to mention to you. And I just want to show you this, okay? And I want you to follow along or click. And there's a very simple reason why. Here under the certification tab, where it says Get Certified, there's a couple of sections here, and I have more sections than you do. So if you did click with me, you'll see you're missing a section. The section you're missing is Get Certified. This is where you would go to take the certification exam. We have turned it off for all of the training accounts because we don't want you to take the test as training plus analyst 603 at sumologic.com. We want you to take it with your name, right? So that's why we turned that off. But here under Get Sumo, Become a Sumo Logic Expert, here is where our self-paced courses are. So not only we have instructor-led courses, we have self-paced courses, and they're broken down by general, observability areas, security areas. 5 courses, 7 courses, and I think there's like 4 courses here. You'll also see here's where we keep our password. So when we do update the password in April, this is where you can go to get that information. Under here, recorded live training. If you would like a recording of this class to share with your colleagues, or if you want a copy of the slides, you can go in here. We are in the Fundamental Cert Jam. I have to register, which takes me a second here. Boom, I'm registered. Thank you. Here
Why don't we
is
go ahead and get started?
a copy of the recording of this class session. So you can play it with your colleagues, whatever. Here is a copy of our slides. In fact, you're going to find that when you take your certification exam is open note, open book, open slides, open documentation. Heck, you can even ask the instructors. So having those slides might be handy for you, okay? Also, here's the student lab guide. We generated a PDF for them as well. So that's where this stuff is. It's in our learning management system here. So bear with me a second while I go back there. All of our classes are here, okay? And then last but not least, also another area for you to get to support if you want to. And then this is where our certification exams are. I'll talk about that as we wrap things up. Any questions about the tour into Sumo Logic? Any questions about that?
Yeah, John, on the screen that you shared, I cannot see, the becoming an expert tab under certification.
You're not seeing the Become an Expert?
Yeah, rather I'm seeing access to a course catalog and certification exams.
There's a reason for that. Sorry. I told you we turned this one off. We also turned that one off for these training accounts. Okay.
Okay.
So when you log in, if you go into your company's Sumo Logic environment, right? If you go into your company's Sumo Logic environment and you click on, get certified, you'll see it there. We want to keep track of who's taking these self-paced courses, not the training analyst account.
Okay. Oh, it makes
sense.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you for asking. All right. So folks, what I'd like to do is let's go ahead and click the Home tab here again. Let's click on the Learn tab again. And here are our hands-on labs for fundamentals. And we are going to go ahead and do lab 1, then we're going to take a break. So let's go in here again, Home tab, Learn tab, click on lab 1, viewing data. If you're like me, what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this URL and I'm going to put it in the chat box for you, just to give you a starting point in case you get lost. By the way, I recommend, because this is opening up in a new tab, I recommend if you're running Google Chrome, go ahead and right click on the tab and pin it. That way you can pin that and you can pin your Sumo Logic environment, and it will make it very easy for you to switch back and forth. Okay. All right, so here in lab 1, talks about how to sign in, and you've all signed in. We're all good to go there. The second thing it talks about here is, and it's logical, you all probably want to know after this class, how can I see what data I can play with, right? Makes sense. So we're going to show you how you can see the data that's on your system. I'm going to show you in the training system, but then you can apply it to your system. So how do we do this? Well, we go to Sumo Logic, to the training environment. We open up this navigation panel. So if it's not open, we open it up. We go down to our main menu where it says Manage Data, and we click on Collection. Now, here in Collection is where I see all of my collectors and my sources. So right here, you see I've got this triangle. When I expand this triangle, this is my collector where the triangle is. These are my various sources, all the various data that I am bringing in from this particular collector. I can filter if I want to by looking at all my collectors or just my installed collectors or my hosted collectors or whatever. So you can quickly see, and if you want to, I can type in something like Okta. Helps if I type in correctly here. Sorry, I'm having a hard time seeing my keyboard. There we go. I can type in Okta, and I don't care if it's uppercase or lowercase, the query is not case sensitive. And so here I can filter and look for specific types of collectors. Okay. So this is how you and I can see what kind of data I can play with. That's one way. And that's, again, part of this first lab. So see what data is available. Another way that you can do this is you can write a query. You can write a query. And the way we're going to do this is we're going to click on the new blue button, select log search, and we're going to go ahead and type in a query. Now, one of the cool things about our labs is that you can take the code that's in here. You can swipe over that code. You can right click on that code and copy it. And then you can go in here and they want to just click new log search, and you could paste that query in. Now, to tell you the truth, I don't want to paste that query in right now. I could, but I'm not going to. I want to build this query to show you what happens. So I'm going to start. First thing I want to do is I want to see everything. So I put a wildcard in, a star. Give me everything. And if I run that, I am looking at all of my logs for the last 15 minutes. That's a default setting. And just so you know, I got back about 967,715 log messages. It's quite a number of log messages. And you'll find they're all in different formats, right? Some are text, some are JSON, some are CSV, some are XML, lots and lots of different things coming back, okay? Is there a question, Nicholas?
Yeah, short one. I see that you often start with star and then filter down the hits. Does it matter which order you do? Since usually when you do like a database query or something, you want to slim down the collection as much as possible until you do like finer things.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right. And so here's just so you know, this is a bad example. We usually don't start with star. We usually start with some metadata tag like source category, and we try to be as specific as we can. So okay. I'm just trying to show you the tools to kind of get you going here, but you're absolutely right. Just like with database queries, you want to be as specific as you can, be as focused as you can, so they respond faster. Same thing here.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, we're on the same page. Yep. And I apologize for that confusion. So again, I'm going to type in a star. And then when I want to type in another command, all our commands are joined together with a pipe. That's that vertical line, pipe. And then I can type in something else. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say I want to count by underscore source category. Okay. Source category is a metadata tag. And what source category is, if I look down here, There it is. I've got like 67 source categories. And by the way, this is called the field browser down here. The field browser shows me all my available fields that I can use and I can take advantage of. And if I click on the word source category, it pops up this menu showing me my top 10 source categories. So what happens when I actually run this query? It does two things. One, it retrieves all of my records for the last 15 minutes. And now I'm up to 1 million. Okay. And then it's going to create this aggregates tab because I told it to count. If I tell it to count, to sum, to min, to max, whatever, it's going to give me an aggregate tab. And on this aggregate tab, it's counting how many of these messages are from each of the source categories. And so here I've got 353 from this source category, 15 from this source category, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now, if I wanted to, maybe I want to sort this all descending, and you could just click on this to sort it ascending and descending or whatever, or you can also do it by command. So again, I'm going to type in a pipe. I'm going to type in the word sort space by. I could say the word order space by, same basic thing. And then I want to sort it by the results of my count. This word count without the underscore is the operator. It's going to count things. Think of a teacher in a classroom counting students. 1, 2, 3, 4. The results of that count are stored in underscore count. That's what I see down here. Let's make it a little easier for you to see, perhaps. Let me magnify this up a little bit. Okay. That's why I want to sort by that. And now when I run this, it's going to sort it in descending order. By default, if I don't specify an order, it puts it in descending order. If I want it to be in ascending order or descending order, whatever order I want, I can add a little tag to the end of it. Okay. But if you don't specify the order, it will put it in descending order. Mario, question, sir? Okay, a couple folks have raised their hands. Questions? Go ahead and unmute your mic and ask your questions.
Yes, sorry, was a mood. Source category is a property that is added to the collectors or something that
Okay.
comes from I don't know.
Yeah. If when I create a collector, or more importantly, I create a source, okay? In that source, when I define that source, I define what the source category is. So you name your sources and your source categories and your sources.
Okay, it's just okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Appreciate the question. I'm trying to be as complete and transparent as I can. Now, one thing, I could type in another pipe and type another command and all stuff, and I could have this, all my commands on one line, and the system wouldn't have a problem with that. The problem is we humans would have a problem with that. That would be like the world's ugliest run-on sentence in the world. So we humans like to have our commands on separate lines. So if I put my cursor back here in front of my pipe, and how you do a word wrap or a character turn line feed or whatever is, if you're on a Windows keyboard, it is a Alt Enter or Shift Enter. And in the case of a Mac keyboard, it's a Shift Enter. So what I can do is I can put these on separate lines. That's a little easier for us as humans to digest. Doesn't make any difference whether it's all in one line or a bunch of lines or it's all separate lines, doesn't make any difference. But the problem is if you try to do an enter to create a character turn line feed, it's just going to rerun your query. There's actually a preference setting in your environment for that causes that. But it's an Alt Enter or Shift Enter to force it to go to a new line. Any questions on this? All right, let's continue on with lab 1 then. So we ran this little exercise, we got our results. Again, why we show you this? Because chances are when you go back to your environment, you're going to want to see, where's my data? What can I play with? That sort of thing. What kind of queries can I run? The next part of this exercise is they want us to find and display a shared dashboard in our environment. So they want us to go into the library, which is this icon out here. They want us to search for Apache access. So here we go. Here's my library. Here's my little search field. And I don't care if you type in uppercase, lowercase, whatever case you want. It really doesn't make any difference. So when I type in Apache access, you'll notice that, let me just for fun here, collapse this down here a little bit. There we go. You'll see that I've got 3 Apache access folders. This first one, the one that was created by me, is the one that you want, okay? This other one was created by somebody else and somebody else again. This first one, if we open up this folder, we can see that it has an Apache overview dashboard. And if you and I click on that Apache overview dashboard, you'll see that it's going to populate with some information about my web server form, the different web servers I'm using, top URLs, all of that good stuff. Now, this is an application that we have available to you. So if you happen to be running Apache, you could install this app. When you install the app, and we'll do that in just a minute, you tell it where your data is coming from, and then it will then display all of your data through this app. You know, the best type of query to create, in my opinion, is the one that I don't have to write, right? So if I can, if you can, if we can install an application from Sumo Logic or from one of our partners that automatically has 70 to 90% of all the stuff I need, I want to do that. And then I can tweak it for that last 10 to 30%, right? I can adjust some of these panels. Oops, sorry. All right. By the way, there's other panels and stuff in here, and there are metrics and under logs that you and I can run. But we want you to simply find this application, be able to see it, be able to run it. Any questions? All right. So as I said, where did that app come from? The next section we want to do is we want to install this app and view the content. So this app came from something, excuse me, let me close this up and get rid of that white box. There you go. This app came from our app catalog. We have just about 200 applications dealing with a whole bunch of different systems that you can install, right? I'm sure some of you, like us, use Zoom. So if I click on the Zoom app, here in the Zoom app, I can get an overview of what sort of activity does this have. It has an administrator activity. It has an authentication activity. It has a whole bunch of panels here that I can see as far as who's doing what with Zoom, right? Your company, if you're using Zoom, you're paying for it. Am I really getting the bang for the buck that I'm looking for here? How am I using my meeting utilizations? You know, who's using the tool, who's not using the tool, that sort of thing. So you can go into any of these apps and you can see in a preview what's going on. Now, if we go back to my app catalog and we were to follow the directions, so up here in my app catalog, if I've selected all categories and I start typing in APA for Apache, as I start typing it in, it starts filtering my choices. And what we want is we want this app Apache with the feather, my good old Apache web server, not Tomcat, but good old Apache web server. So I want you to click on the good old Apache with a feather web server there. And as I said before, we could look at these dashboards to see what kind of things they're giving us. We can preview this and see what's happening, okay? But what we want to do, per the book, is we want to add this to our library. We're going to click Add to Library. Okay. And what we're going to do when we give this is we're going to name it. We're going to call it Apache underscore our initials. So let's go ahead and do this. Let's go ahead and click Add to Library. We get a dialog box. What are we going to call this app? I am supposed to call it app Apache underscore my initials. Now, because I teach this about every week, I'm also going to add today's date. And since I'm date challenged, I want to make sure I get that right. So I'm going to type in 0315. Okay. So you're going to give this thing a unique name. Hopefully that makes sense. Now down here is where we tie it to the data. We can either use the source category, or we can also use a custom data filter. Okay. In our case, in this lab, we're going to use a custom data filter. So I want you to go in here and I want you to select enter a custom data filter. And then for the value that we're going to put in there, I want you to take this code without the period at the end, right? I'm going to put it in the chat box to make it easy for you. I'm trying to make it easy for you, okay? And I want you to paste this in. What we're basically doing is I am adding a custom data filter looking for a key value pair. The key says web server underscore system. The value is Apache. I also have a web server underscore system equals IIS, for example, is another system that I have. So we're specifying that we want to see the Apache system. So I want you to paste this in, type it in, whatever you want to do. Here under advanced, you'll see that we're going to add this by default to our personal folder, and that's where we want it. Just want you to be aware. And then I'm going to click, and I want you to click add to library. So what we're doing is we're installing an app out of the box. And if we got this connecting to our data proper, we should now be able to go into this app. So I'm going to go into my personal folder. I'm going to find this app. There it is, JWM0315. And if I click on the dashboard, I should see it populate with data. And if I don't see it populate with data, that means I got the data connection stuff wrong. But if I do see it, I'm good to go. And that's how you and I install an app. Questions? But wait, there's more. Now that we've installed this app, we want to share it with our colleagues, with our friends, with our coworkers. So back to my Sumo Logic environment. I'm going to go find this folder that I created, Apache with your initials. On the three dots here, this is called the More Action button, by the way. If you click on those three dots, you'll see you've got lots of choices. You'll see that you can edit, you can share, you can save as, you can move, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You cannot zip. You might see that test question coming up later today, okay? Zip is not one of the choices. Now, what we want to do is we want to share. So we click on share. And when you want to share with folks, there's a couple of questions here. One, there's three distinct groups of folks that you can share with. Three distinct groups. One, you can share with your entire organization. Share it up. You can select that. Two, you can share with various roles. I know that all of you are members of the training analyst role. I know because we set up the system. So you can sit there and send it to the entire organization, a specific role, or I can also send it to a specific user. So I can start typing in here. Let's see if Taffy's here. Taffy's not here. Let's see if my boss is here. Wow. Somebody's playing around here. Okay. If I try to type in myself, it wouldn't work. Okay. There's Josh. There's my boss. So you can also send it to a named user. So the three people you can send it to, the entire organization, a role, or a named user. So you can share this with whomever you want. Now, in here, what level of access do I want to give them? And right now, I'm going to leave this at view. But view allows them to see it, allows them to run it. They can't change it. They can't modify it. If they want to modify it, I need to give them edit rights. That means they can view it, they can run it, they can make changes to it, but they can't change who can access this, who has permissions to this. That is the manage right. If you have the manage right, you can view, you can edit, and then you can also change the permissions. Right now, initially, I'm going to set everybody to view. I could notify them via email, but I really don't want to create an email storm right now, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and select these, and I'm going to click share. Just humor me for a second. I'm going to do this in two stages. Now I'm going to go back in this. I'm going to again choose share. This time I can see who has access, and now I can change it. I want to give my boss the ability to manage. I want to give you all the ability to edit. So, and I only want the user, the community to be able to view it. So now I can granularly change these And again, I can click save. So your three permissions there are view, edit, and manage. There is no read permission. Again, you'll see that in just a little bit when you take the exam. Any questions so far? Congratulations, folks. We are now done with lab number 1. We are about an hour and 20 minutes into this. I think you guys have deserved a break. Let's take a quick 5-minute break if you don't mind. So let me set up my timer here for 5 minutes, and I'll see you when this timer gets down to 0. Have yourselves a good break. See you in about 4 minutes and 55 seconds. Thanks. I see my 5-minute timer went off. Sorry about that. I got involved with the dog. He woke up. All right, are we ready to go? Okay, what I'm going to do here is move on to lab 2. And again, at the bottom of lab 1, there are links to move you to lab 2. So you can move back to, like I said, if you're in lab 1, right bottom down here, there's a link to go to lab 2. And there it is, link to lab 2, and off we go to the races. So in lab 2, we're going to create a query. And what I want to do before I start creating this query is I want to explain a little bit about queries to you. So we go back to my slides here for just a minute. And I want to talk about the structure of a query. And this, by the way, makes an excellent test question. So there's a method to my madness. When you create a query, as somebody pointed out earlier, right, we don't just put in a star, we specify what data that we want. So here we're going to put a metadata tag, usually source category. What data do we want to see? And then we can also filter for a specific keyword. So I maybe only want to see the messages that have the word Mozilla in it. So again, we have this metadata and keywords. That's the first thing that we do. And then after that, you're going to find that we'll parse out any fields that we need to. Then we'll filter anything that we need to do. Then we'll aggregate what we need to do and format. So the process is metadata keywords, followed by parsing, followed by filtering, followed by aggregation, followed by format. That is the order that we typically do. Okay. And if you think about it, by our metadata and keywords, we're basically setting the top diameter here of a funnel. And so as we go through that funnel and we parse and we filter and all stuff, it makes our results set smaller and smaller. And like I said, as we discussed earlier, you know, when you're writing any query, whether it was a database query or a Sumo Logic query, you want to be as specific and focused as you can to get the right data, the right results. You don't want to search for everything. You want to be pretty specific. Okay. So, and then if I go through these slides here, it talks about the different parses that we can use. We're going to use a parse anchor in class, which is probably one of the harder ones to use because you've got to be very precise where you put things. But you'll find that we can also parse JSON, CSV, XML. We can also do parse regular expressions or regex. You know, we can all do all kinds of different parsing. We talk more about that in the search mastery class. Then we can filter and add where clauses. You'll see an example of that here. We then aggregate, do our sums or our counts or our averages or whatever. And then we do our format. We format things, and you'll see some of that in this session. So what I'm going to do, by the way, I'm going to close this up. I don't need my navigation panel open. And all these tabs that I have open up get a little busy. So I can close them up individually by clicking the X on each tab, or if I grab that 3 vertical dots, I can close all tabs. So here in lab 2, it wants us to grab this code, and I can copy it. And they want us to create a new log search, a new log search. And I'm going to paste this code in. Now, and I'm going to run it. Now, by default, it's 15 minutes. By the way, let me shrink this back down because I expanded it earlier. So let me shrink it back down, make it a little easier for you to see. Actually, that's a little much. Let's turn it back. Go back there. Okay. So here I'm looking at my Apache Access logs for any message that has the word get in it. Now, does it make any difference whether this is a capital get or a lowercase get? No. Doesn't make a darn bit of difference. It'll still find get. So this first query, this top line, is a case insensitive query. Okay. Again, I want you to be aware of that. And what it's doing is it's getting me back about 7,300 rows in my case. Now, while we're here, these are my messages. So here is my time. Here is my message. If you're having problems where these are not lining up real nice, you can switch to classic table over here. So they do line up a little bit better, your fields and stuff. Over here is my field browser. Now, there's a lot of reasons why you might see fields here. But typically, normally, if I grab, by default, I don't create any field extraction rules or anything fancy. I only see source category, source host, source name, things like that. These are the fields I don't see unless I encounter a JSON log. Then I'll see all the fields. The reason I'm seeing these fields is because of something called a field extraction rule. And we teach that during the admin class. Now, for example, there's a field here called status code. And again, if I click on the word status code, a pop-up panel appears telling me all of my different status codes. In my log messages here have a status code. Most of them are a status code of 200, which means the web page worked just great. I'm sure we've all seen a 304 or a 404 error message. We've gotten a web page with a 404 or 304. So those are also status codes. The status code is, did it work? Did it not work? Why did, that sort of stuff. I can, if I want to, click on this and a pop-up menu shows me both my numbers and my relative percentages. If there are more than 10 values there, when we create the pop-up, we only show the top 10. So this one has 15, right? When I click on it, I only see the top 10. So I can very quickly see this. Now, because I have these fields here, if I wanted to, I could check mark the fields that I want, and it automatically parses them out and puts them here. Now that's great. In our training environment, we got these field extraction rules, but you may not have any field extraction rules. So we're going to show you actually how to parse these things out. We're going to show you how to extract these out yourselves. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back here. Again, in my display fields, I see URL, which I'm going to click and turn off. Status code, I'm going to click and turn off. And so here I am seeing my results. Again, when I run this, here's my query results. All I'm seeing is my time and my message. Now, if I want to parse something, a lot of different parsing mechanisms we can use. One of the ones that we can use is something called a parse anchor. So if I go back here to lab 2 and I look at this, by the way, they want to change this to 60 minutes. I'll do that in just a second. But they want to parse this thing out. So let me go back here, change this to 60 minutes. By the way, as I mentioned before, if there's a choice that's not here, like 45 minutes, all you have to do is go up this field, type in a minus sign to go back, 4 or 5, M for minutes, and now it'll go back 45 minutes. Okay. So again, they want us to select 60 minutes. How many log messages do you want to see? Now, as far as this parsing goes, we're going to do a parse anchor. And the reason it gets its word, the name parse anchor, is we're going to anchor at the very beginning of this message, and we're going to anchor at the very end of this message. Okay. So, and this is the hardest thing you're going to do today in this class. So right here on this bracket, I don't care if it's the first message, the second message, the third message, I don't care. But I want you to start there at that bracket, and I'm going to click, I'll hold my mouse button down, and I'm going to swipe over that bracket. Then I'm going to swipe over this get, and I'm going to swipe over this URL, and where it says HTTP 1/1, I'm going to swipe over that. There's 2 sets of numbers. I'm going to swipe over those 2 sets of numbers, and I'm going to continue to swipe over into the next line, down here to the URL, including the double quotes. So I'm swiping, starting at the bracket, ending at the double quote here. Just for fun, I'm going to grab it. And then, by the way, I'm going to right click on this and I'm going to say parse selected text. And that's going to give me this panel. Now, if you missed it, I'm going to do it again. So again, I'm going to start at this bracket. I'm going to grab a different message this time just for fun. I'm going to swipe over these HTTP 1/1, the 2 sets of numbers, this URL up to the quote at the end there. Then I'm going to right click on this and I am going to say parse selected text. So I've selected a whole bunch of things, but I'm anchoring at this point and I'm anchoring at this quote, double quote at the back. Now I can extract out fields that I want. So I'm going to sit there and swipe over the word get, just the word get, no leading spaces, no trailing spaces. It says I can now click to extract this value. I'm going to do that. I'm going to click to extract that value. it replaces it with a star. What do I want to call that field? Get. That is a method, right? Get, post, those are methods. My fields down here are going to be comma separated, and they can't contain spaces within the field name. You'll see that in just a second. Okay. The next field I have here is this about us. I'm going to swipe over this about us. In my case, I'm going to swipe over before the HTTP 1/1. I'm going to leave any trailing spaces or leading spaces out of it. I'm going to extract this out, and I'm going to call this URL. Again, a comma. I'm going to leave the 1/1 stuff alone. I'm going to take this 3-digit number. I'm going to swipe over it, click to extract it. That is my status code. Now, again, you can't put spaces in here. You can do some sort of camel case if you want, or you can put some sort of underscore in there if you want, whatever you want, okay? And then I'm going to grab this 4-digit number. This 4-digit number represents my size. So I can say size, I can say bytes, I can say whatever. You can call these things whatever you want to call them. And then inside of my double quotes here, this is actually my refer. So I'm not going to grab the double quotes. I'm going to grab what's inside the double quotes. And I'm going to swipe that, and I'm going to extract that. And I'm going to call this my refer. Refer. Helps if I can spell. Okay. Now, when I click submit, you'll see that it adds this line of code for me. That's why we did this. And now when I run this, it's going to extract and put my fields where they belong. Time, here's my method, here's my refer, here's my size, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I scroll all the way to the right, there's my original message. Okay. Somebody asked a question, is this meeting being recorded and shared to us later? It is being recorded, that is true. And I believe it will be sent to you all later. So yes, Abdul, it is going to be made available to you. I think I showed you guys though earlier where you can find a recorded session of this. So I just want to make sure we're in good shape there. So thanks for asking, Abdul. You're very welcome. Thanks for asking. Another question, go ahead.
Yes, I guess parse action is useful mostly for logs and not for metrics. Am I right?
That's sort of true. I can actually take, if I want to extract metrics out of my logs, I can do that too. So, okay. But you're right. This is pretty much for logs, more so for logs than metrics. So yeah.
Thanks.
Yep, you're welcome. And we got a whole bunch of other hands being raised. So go ahead and ask your questions, folks.
I have a question.
Yes,
how can I do to do the parse until the end of the line is sometimes I don't have like a final point or a slash.
Okay. In the case of parse anchor, you're going to grab the whole thing. And the problem is parse anchors aren't really good about that because you don't have a well-defined end anchor. So maybe you want to use another method like parse regular expressions, regex, or maybe parse, depending on what the data type is, it's JSON or XML or whatever. But to answer your question, in the case of a parse anchor, I would just grab the whole thing and see what happens. Okay, does that answer your question?
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, it gave me an idea. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, well, like I said, see a bunch of hands coming up, so go ahead and ask your questions, folks. Ask your questions. You don't need to raise your hands, just go ahead and ask your questions.
Hi, John.
Yes.
Just wondering if, can you do multiple parses? For example, if I split out the URL here,
yep,
and I have URLs with lots of IDs in them, could I go another pass and just say like a regex path to say numbers are replaced by IDs?
Okay, I'm going to answer your question. Just two parts to your question. Yes, okay. You continue to put another parse statement in here. It could be a different type of parse statement. It doesn't have to be a parse anchor. I got a parse anchor in here now. I could do a parse regex too if I wanted to. So you can mix your parsing statements in. Now, if you did a parse statement, you extracted something out, that you want to extract out even further, then the command is parse space field equals, and then the name of that field. And we teach that in the search mastery class.
That sounds wonderful. Thank you.
So yeah, good questions. Any other questions? I apologize if you hear the dog barking in the background. He's wanting to come up the stairs. I don't know why he hasn't come up, but apparently he's not happy getting up this time on the morning. Anyway. Any other questions, ladies and gentlemen? One other thing I wanted to mention to you, if you look at the order that they're listed here and you look at the order they're listed down here, they're not the same order. They're listed down here alphabetically. If you want to change the order of them that they're listed down here, there is a command called the fields command that you can use to change the order. So you put them in the order that you want using the fields command. Again, we talk about that in other classes. You know, I've got so much material and so little time. So again, that's the story. Now, when you run yours, if you're not getting these results, if you're getting really messed up results, if you go in here to lab 2 and underneath parse messages, if you scroll down a little bit and you grab this code and you copy it, you should be in, like, it should work just fine. So if you want to cheat and grab this code, that's perfectly fine. This is kind of a tedious little exercise to do, but we parse this. Now, the next thing, of course, it wants us to do is to save this, right? A couple of different ways to save it. Number one, you can go here to the 3 dots and you can do a save as and save it off if you want. But we've also recently added this new little file disk icon, which is a save button. So you can click on the save button and save it that way. I don't care if you save it right now or not. That's really kind of irrelevant. And I'll save us that step. Any questions about lab 2 before we move on to lab 3? Excuse me a second. Come on, come on. So, just trying to coax the dog up, folks. Sorry about that. Anyway, so here in lab 3, we want to chart our data. We want to do something with it. Okay. Now, again, you could take this code if you want to, and you can copy it and you can paste it. Or if you're like me, I'm going to put my cursor there at the end. Again, I'm going to do a shift enter, an alt enter. I'm going to type in a pipe and I'm going to say count by, and this time I want to count by status code. And when I run this by hitting the enter key, you'll now notice that I've got this aggregates tab. Under my messages tab, nothing's changed. This is all the same information as it was before. But now, because I'm doing a count or a sum or a min or a max, this creates an aggregates tab. And on my aggregates tab, you will notice that I have the ability to create bar charts, column charts, pie charts, all kinds of different charts. And over here, this tabular icon shows me my actual numbers. Okay. So we want to create this, but we want to fill it out a little bit more. Okay. We want to create a visualization for this, but we want to fill it out a little bit more. But that's how we got here. And again, this count is an operator. My results are stored in underscore count. I could put an as statement in there and give it a different name if I want to, an as clause, but for right now, let's keep it simple. Now, the next thing they have us do in the lab is we're going to add a time slice operator. Now, a time slice operator just creates buckets to put things in, to organize things. So for example, here I'm running a query for the last 60 minutes. If, before I do this count, if I add a new line, I type in a pipe, and I say time slice, and I type in 1M, it's going to create 1 minute buckets for me. It's going to create 60 1 minute buckets. And then I can count by, again, my results of underscore time slice. Helps if I spell correctly. Comma, status code. So now when I run this, now I'm seeing here my time slices. They're not in any order. Here's my status codes, and here's my count. So I'm breaking this down a little bit further to create the kind of visualization that I want. Any questions so far? All right. The next thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to add another line at the end of this, and I'm going to use the transpose command. Now, what the transpose command is going to do for me is it's going to create like a pivot table. So I want my time slices on my rows. I want my status codes across my columns, and I want my count in the middle. So we're going to use the transpose command to do that. Transpose. And what I specify, what do I want on my row? On my row, I want underscore time slice. On my column, what do I want my column? I want status code. So now when I run this, I now see here are my time slices, and they're now in order. The transpose command puts them in order. And then here are my status codes. They put those in order as well. So now I'm starting to get the kind of visualization here that I want. Now, in the book, in the lab, they tell you to create a bar chart, a column chart. I like a line chart better. So we did the transpose. Now we're going to create a chart. I'm going to create a line chart, but it's up to you. And one of the things that we notice with this line chart is that I can use these to filter out and remove certain things and all that. That's great. So this is actually has a built-in selector that lets me select my values. Now here's the problem. When I look at my data, I notice my highest occurrence here is a 200. A 200 means everything worked great. I don't really want to show my users a 200. And while I could turn it off here, if I put this on a dashboard, my users could turn it back on, right? So really what I want to do is filter out the 200. The next one down here, by the way, is a 304. And a 304 means I receive things from cache. So that's not an error either. So what I want to do is I want to filter out my status code of 200 and my status code of 304. To do that, I'm going to add a where clause. Now, where do you put the where clause? You typically put the where clause as a best practice right after you grab that field. So we grab status code in this parse statement. So right after that status code, that parse statement, I'm going to add a new line. I'm going to type in where. I'm going to type in some parentheses because I'm going to have two different conditions. Say status code, status underscore code equals 200, or, and it helps if I put an equal sign there. Oops. Or status underscore code equals 304. Now, bad news. When I run this, this is doing exactly what I told it to do. I said filter and only show me where status code equals 200 or 304. That's why I only see 200 and 304. That's exactly 180 degrees different from what I want. I want everything but those. So if I add in front of the parentheses here an exclamation mark, that now reads where not status code equals 200 or status code equals 304. So now when I run this, I'm getting all of my results back except for 200s and 304s, and I don't see them in my legend. And that's why we added that where clause. Questions? Guess what? That takes care of lab 3. Moving on to lab number 4, we're going to create and share a dashboard. Now, I need you to be very careful here. I need you to pay attention and follow along. As far as adding this to a dashboard, that's real simple. We click on the button over here in the aggregates tab that says add to dashboard. Pure and simple. And then we're going to give this panel a name. Well, something like Apache status codes, whatever you want to call the panel. And then here's the question. What do you want to call this dashboard? Okay. I believe they want us to call this Apache status codes as well. However, we want you to put your initials in here. And again, I'm going to put today's date in here. 03/15/2022. And the reason I'm doing this is I type this stuff along. I did see Just bear with me a second here. Rid of that. I saw a pick list here of all the other dashboards that have this information in there, right? As I start typing and I continue to type, eventually it says, I don't have an existing dashboard with this name. Are you wanting to create a new dashboard? And yes, we do want to create a new dashboard, okay? So we want to make sure it says create new dashboard here. It's a unique name. If not, add some more numbers here, add numbers if you need to, but you want to create a new dashboard. And when you click on this to create a new dashboard, it brings up this panel. Now, here's where I want you to pay attention. There's a switch here. By default, we will create this in the new dashboard user interface. We don't want to do that. We want to use the old legacy dashboards. Why? I'll be honest with you. There's a couple test questions on the old legacy dashboards. That's the only reason I want to use the old ones, to cover those questions, to make sure you get that stuff right. Okay. So I want to make sure that when you see this in blue, you click on it so that it grays it out or moves the switch over to the left, whatever. And by default, this is going to put this in your personal folder. Now, when I click add, it's now going to add an object here called my Apache status codes. And you'll notice this icon is kind of greenish. If it's purple, it means you didn't throw the switch. Blue, it didn't throw the switch. It should be green. Now, the first thing I noticed, because I'm in the over 60 category, is, my gosh, this is hard to see. Fortunately, I can grab it, I can drag it out here, and I can make it bigger. So now I can see this. And as I pointed out, as you'll see in a little bit, when I get done editing it, we can use this selector and we can see the stuff that we want. Okay. Now, if I wanted to add another bar chart, line chart, whatever in here, in the legacy dashboards, I have to start with a query, either a log query or a metric query, and then put that out to this dashboard. So that's how you add other visualizations and stuff to here. The thing that you can add from here, and again, there's my 3 vertical dots, my more action button. I can add a panel, but the only panel that you can add is either a title panel or a text and title panel. So I'm going to choose text and title panel here, and I'm going to say something like Apache status code information. Oops, if I spell correctly here. And then here in my text, I may say something like this. Oops, boy, I can type really well today. Huh? Should say these are the errors our customers are seeing. Okay. Put some information in there. Okay. And then if I want to here, I can click submit. And so there's this panel. And again, I'm going to make this panel about the same size or fill this thing up, fill the space. And typically, I don't know about you, but I want to change the layout because I want to put this textual information first. Then I want to show them the data. So I can drag this object over here by simply dragging on it. And then I can drag this one up here. And I can also go in here if I want to and change my themes where it says toggle theme, which is better, 1 or 2. Again, 1 or 2. So you can choose dark theme or light theme, whichever you want. Now, when you are done editing this and you're ready for people to consume it, you click the Done Editing button. And now people can use this. They can filter, check, do whatever they want to. By default, what's going to happen is every 60 minutes, this thing's going to refresh. So right now, for the next 59 minutes, it's not going to do a darn thing. Then all of a sudden, it will refresh. Sometimes people want it to refresh automatically as new data comes in. That is live mode. So if I throw the live mode switch, now as new data comes in, the old data will get pushed out. This thing automatically refresh every minute or so. Okay, that's what live mode is. Now, if you want to go back and edit this, this is where the test question comes from. If you want to go back in and edit this, this little pencil icon allows you to go back into the editing mode where you can change things. And when you're done, click Done Editing. But this pencil is how you get back into the editing mode. And last but not least here, we've added the text panel and all that stuff. We laid it up. We've changed the look and feel. Guess what? This is a dashboard. And so you can go into this icon right here and you can share it, or you can go and find your dashboard in your personal folder and you can write, share it there, whichever you want. But here I can now share this with whomever I want to. Also, there is a shareable URL that I can give folks for that particular URL. And that takes care of that lab. Any questions? All right. So we've learned how to create a little bit about writing queries. We've learned a little bit about how to create dashboards. Now let's talk about how you can modify an existing dashboard. And the existing dashboard that we're going to modify is that new dashboard variety. So this dashboard is our legacy dashboard. What we want you to do in Lab 5 is we want you to go into your personal folder. Remember earlier you installed an app, that Apache app. So find the Apache with your initials in your folder here. Click on the Apache overview. Notice this icon is a bluish purplish icon. That's the new dashboards. And what we want to do is we want to modify one of the queries that's here. So here I have a query that shows me where my visitors are coming from around the world. And I can, you can, we can zoom in and you'll see it breaks our numbers down. Now, what we want to do is we want to modify this and filter it so that we only see data for the United States. I understand from a European perspective, that's a little self-serving there, but I understand that. But what we're going to do to modify this is we're going to click on these three vertical dots, and in new dashboards, you can actually edit this in its environment. So here in the new dashboards, I can click edit. This brings up where my code is and my results very, very easily. And so here in Lab 5, we're going to open this up. Again, we're going to open it up and edit it. And we're going to add a line. We're going to add a line right after we get our lookup. So right here, okay, just so you know, most of this is just going out and grabbing data from my logs, from my Apache. We're parsing out some fields. We're using regular expressions. So we're parsing out our IP address, we're parsing out our method, a bunch of other fields. We're going to take the IP address right here, and we're going to look it up with one of our partners called Newstar. So we're going to send the IP address to Newstar, this URL right here, and they're going to send us back the latitude, the longitude, the country code, the country name, the region, city, and postal code. They're going to send all that to us. Now, what I want to do is I want to modify this query so we're only seeing data from the United States. So right after this lookup line, I'm going to add a new line, again, Shift Enter, Alt Enter, whatever. I'm going to type in a pipe, and I'm going to type in a where clause, where. And in this case, I am going to say where country underscore name equals. And because this is a literal string, I'm going to put it inside double quotes. And I have to type it in exactly. So United States is spelled that way. And so I've got to make sure this matches. I mentioned earlier that this first line is case insensitive. This where clause typically is case sensitive, okay? So I'm going to type in where country underscore name equals United States. I'm going to run that query. And now all I'm seeing here is data from the United States. Okay. And then I can tell it to update my dashboard, and it will modify my dashboard for me. We're still working with the vendor of this Mapbox plot, aka Mapbox, to have it automatically refresh when we update the dashboard. But that is Lab 5. We simply added this where clause. Now, Could I have, instead of using country name, could I have used country code and said US, country code? Sure, you could have done it that way. And for those of you who are DBAs and stuff like that, you probably would use country code. It would be faster rather than doing a literal string. So I get it. All right, so that's lab 5. Lab 6, we're going to create an alert. We've got 2 more labs let's talk about, and then we're going to get you on your exam. So doing good here as far as time goes. By the way, are there any questions? I want to make sure I give you time here for questions and see if you got any questions right now. Odell, which questions? All right, not hearing any questions. Let's talk about lab 6. This exercise, this lab does not do creating alerts justice, okay? And I have to explain a couple things to you. That is, we used to have a very simplistic way of creating alerts. Now we've advanced and we've got more modern ways, but this lab doesn't reflect that. We teach that stuff in the admin class. What I'm trying to say here, let me go back to this. Let me go back to this visitor location. This time I want to open up this query. Instead of open up and editing it, I want to open it up in a search. When I choose to open it up in a search, it's going to open up my log search and it's going to put this query in here. Okay. Now, the reason we're saying this is that in order to do this type of alert, where you schedule and generate an alert from this, in order to do this, you do it from a log or a metric search. So here, you can click on this ellipse button and you can click on this save as icon. So when you click on save as, and this is, by the way, how you're going to create an alert. So when you see the test question, it says, what do you click on to generate an alert? It's the save as button. You're going to save off this query. And then down here, there's a button that says schedule this. So you're going to click schedule this and you say, how often do I want this to run? Well, if my query runs every hour, I probably want this to run every hour. Okay. So how often do I want this to run? And then how do I want to notify you? Do I want to notify you via email? Do I want to take some script action? We can create an alert that says, hey, if somebody's attacking my ports, maybe I want to run a script action to close down some of those ports. I can generate in our Cloud SIM environment a signal. I can create a ServiceNow connection. We have something here called webhooks, which allows us to send things to Slack or Microsoft Teams or whatever. PagerDuty, those are webhooks that your administrator can set up using the various APIs of those other products. I can also save this as an index. I can also save this to a lookup table. In our case, for creating the alert, they want us to simply use an email. So I'm going to go in here. I'm going to choose email, which is the first option. Okay. I can also send that email to whomever, search owner. Who do I want to send this to, right? Type in your email address or your email addresses that you want to send it to, distribution list, individual persons, we don't care. And then what subject line do you want? Now, not only can you use this subject line, but there's a whole bunch of other fields here that you can use. So I can display the trigger time, I can display its name, I can display its detection method, those various values. So this is going to say search result, colon, and then the name of my search, the name of my item here. And then down here, there are 4 things that you can include in. Again, another test question. You can include the search query, you can include the result set, you can include the histogram, and also a CSV attachment. Of those 4 things, you'll want to remember result set. This is going to give you 4 choices, and the only one's correct is result set. So you can send this stuff if you want to. So what's going to happen is every hour it's going to send me a message. Now, if I want to, I can say, look, send this to me every time the search is complete, or I can say if a following condition is met. This is the part where we don't get into enough detail. We actually teach this part of it in the search mastery class. So get into a lot more detail there. But as far as sending and scheduling and doing alert, this is how we do that. Now, if you do this and you hit save and you want to make sure that static time range is not allowed, hang on a second. Sorry about that. If you want to stop this search, because every hour you're getting something here, it's complaining that the item already exists, right? So hang on a second. Let's I got to go back to my save as and fix that. But if you wanted to go in here and stop it, you would go back into your query, back into your settings here, back into your save as. And when you schedule a search, you would just change its run frequency to never, and that will stop it from executing. It's no longer scheduled, okay? Another thing you can see is that you can also go into your personal folder and you can see things that are scheduled to see, you know, what you've got scheduled and stuff like that. And that, folks, is lab number 6. Now, lab 7 is about getting help, and I actually talked about this before. You know, you've got this great thing called help.sumologic.com, which is our documentation. I didn't mention this before, but we have a great Sumo Logic community. So again, back in your Sumo Logic environment, back here under Home, back here under Learn, there is a community tab where you can share ideas, collaborate with others, look for code examples, query examples, all kinds of stuff. By the way, you can also get there under Help. Community is there as well. So you can go out to the community and basically see what's going on. But the purpose behind Lab 7 is to expose you to our community, our support, our documentation, all that stuff. Why? Because you can use all of those when you take the certification exam. That's what Lab 7 is. Okay. Are there any questions so far? All right, then, let's get ready to take the exam. Now, as I said, you're going to have an hour for this exam, and let me help you out here a little bit. First of all, I'm going to close up all my tabs, just a housekeep. And what I want you to do is right now, if you look down here on the lower left-hand corner, you're logged in as training plus analyst with some crazy number at sumologic.com, right? I don't want you to be logged in with that account. I want you to be logged in with your name account, like my name is down here. So if you need to, open up this navigation panel, go in here where your name is, training analyst, click on it and sign out. Log out of our training environment. Log out of it. You want to go to your company's environment, whatever your company URL is. So I want you to go to your company's environment and I want you to log in with your name, so that you see down here, when you open up the navigation panel, you should see your name. The reason we want you to do that is when you take the certification exam, we use whatever you're logged in as for your certificate and keep track of records and all that stuff. We don't want you to take it as Sumo, training analyst 603 at sumologic.com. We want you to take it with your name. So we want to make sure you log in to an environment with your name, your company's environment. Any problems with that? Now that you're logged in your company's environment with your name, you want to click on the house. You want to click on certification. You want to click on get certified. Now, some of you may get a pop-up here that says we need to verify your email. If you get that pop-up, there's a button on there. It says you click on that button, and within a minute or so, you should get an email from us. And in the body of that email is another button that you'll click on. And that basically is giving you permission to move from one environment to another environment. Here, I am at service.sumologic.com. I'm in your Sumo Logic environment. Here, I'm in our LMS environment. We have a security feature in our product that says we don't want to be able to move you from one environment to another without your permission. So we want your permission be able to move you. That's what that verify email message is all about. That's why you have those buttons. Once you do those, click on that button that pops up. Once you click on the button, pops up here, and then you click on the button on the email, you've given us that permission. That will then allow you to click on Get Certified again, and it will take you into our LMS. Now, in our LMS, our learning management system, up here in the upper right-hand corner is your profile. And you can, if you want to, add your picture there. You don't have to, but you can add your picture. And here's where you can see all of your certifications that you've taken. You can see the certificate. You can also add it to your LinkedIn profile. So I want you to be aware of where this stuff is. So when we ask you for a copy of your fundamentals certificate, you can go out here, you can view the certificate, you can simply do a screen capture of this, and you can attach it to the form we're going to talk about in just a minute. Okay. So you get the Uber Eats voucher. Also, obviously, you can print the certificate out, you add it to your I love me wall, whatever you want to do. Now, at the bottom of this is a done button. So here to get certified, you should see a get certified button. So again, you went here, you clicked on get certified. You see this get certified button. You click on that. And then here's the fundamentals exam in English. All right. I know I've got a couple folks from Spain. If you want to try the fundamentals exam in Spanish, you can. I'm not sure if it's Mexican Spanish or Spanish Spanish. So we tend to do things in English. So I tend to do things in English. So here in the fundamentals exam, you get to register for this. And then I'm going to start this. I'm going to walk you through this. I don't want you to follow along right now. Just watch. I'm going to click start. And it's give me the before you start. There are 30 questions. You got 60 minutes. Passing score is 75. Open book, open notes, matching choice, all that good stuff. When I click next, it's going to start giving me my interface here. There's my 60-minute counter. As I start scrolling down, if I click start assessment, I start seeing questions. My counter starts. So this question, and by the way, everybody's got different questions in different order. Where in the left navigation would you look for previously saved search or dashboard? Remember I talked about previously saved searches is going to be under your personal folder. Anything you save is in your personal folder, right? It's not in the app catalog. It's not under help. It's not under managed data. True or false? Once an app is installed in the app catalog, it can be shared like any other dashboard. That is true. Now I'm going to answer these first two questions, and I'm going to scroll to the end, and I'm going to submit this. Now, obviously, I'm going to fail, but the point is this. The point's twofold. One, I can see what questions I got right. I can see what questions I got wrong. Don't know what I got wrong about them. I don't know about the choices, but I can see what I got right and what I got wrong. The other thing is make sure you click the submit button if you pass it, so it writes it to your profile. If you don't click the submit button, it doesn't get written to your profile. The exam never happened. You won't have a certificate. So please click that submit button when you pass. If for some reason you don't want to take this exam right now, you don't have to, but we would encourage you to take it while the information's fresh and while you got resources here to answer your questions in case you get out, in case you get stuck. So I suggest you take advantage of those resources, but it's your choice. If you fail the exam, you can take it again immediately, or you can, take it again a couple of days later, or whatever you want. You don't need any intervention from us. Hopefully you all pass it. Are there any questions that you all have about the exam? Okay. As I said, I'm going to be here. Yes, sir. Question, Mario?
Yes, just would like to know if we need to do the exam right now or tomorrow after.
We obviously encourage you to take it now while the stuff's fresh in your mind and you got some proctors here to answer your questions.
Okay.
But if you don't have the time, if you got got to get back to the day job or whatever, you don't have to. We're not holding the gun to your head.
Okay.
So
Thanks.
please,
Just
do what you think is best.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate you asking. Any other questions? Jonathan,
yes.
go ahead. Go ahead.
So
Sorry.
yeah. Oh, please go ahead. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Is it okay to take it in different languages, or if I
It-
pass the fundamental, it will clear up the other languages?
You can take them in different languages if you want to. I would encourage you to take it whatever native language works for you. My problem is I haven't looked at, like, for example, the Spanish to see if it's all correct and all that fun stuff. I know that we've got folks on the Japanese and Korean versions to check that stuff out. It's been so long since, I don't know if anybody's looked at the Spanish exam to see if it's correct and fresh. So I don't know. But yes, it's perfectly all right.
Okay, thanks.
No problem. Jonathan Chart points out that you maybe need to allow third-party cookies in Chrome to allow your ability to get to these exams. Now, somebody else had a question.
It's John, Naveed here. I just
Yep.
want to know from where did you get to the page where you could see the certificate on the LinkedIn?
Yep.
How did you go there?
No problem. Yep. So when you pass the exam, you'll be able to go up here in the upper right-hand corner. And that's where your profile is.
Mhm.
Now,
Yeah.
I've got to confess something to you. Complete disclosure here. You see there's this LinkedIn button.
Mm-hmm.
So you click on that LinkedIn button, it's going to pre-fill out the form, and it's going to add it as a certification when I hit save into your LinkedIn certifications. But it's not going to create that new message, that new post that says, oh, by the way, I got my Sumo Logic certification. It doesn't do that. It just simply adds this to your certifications. And it adds it at the end of your certifications, which I find really annoying. I would like, it's a new certification. It should go on the top, should go on the fresh, but it goes at the very bottom. I don't know why.
Okay.
That's something between SkillJar and LinkedIn. I don't know what's going on. Okay.
So John, if I want to give it now. So can I go ahead and proceed? Or
You certainly can. Yeah. If you guys want to take the exam now, please do. Let me just say a few words here and I'll wrap it up. So again, I want to thank you all for attending. We'll hope to see you again tomorrow. But again, appreciate your hard work and efforts. Go get them. Go take that exam. If you don't want to take the exam, like I said, you can sign out now and have yourselves a great day. Regardless, we'll be here for the next hour while you're taking the exam. Otherwise, please be safe.
the only thing is, if I have any doubts, I can just put on the chat, right? Maybe you
Sorry?
can. If I have any doubts, maybe I can put on
Oh,
the
actually,
chat.
you put on the chat, you can unmute your mic and ask. I don't care if we share questions in here. Obviously, I don't want you asking each other technically, but
Yeah.
you ask a question out loud, I will answer it and everybody gets the benefit of that. So that's
Okay.
fair. Okay.
Okay, thank
One
you.
other thing I do want to put in the chat box here is I mentioned that we have this Uber Eats voucher and this form to fill out. There is a link here for this form. I am going to put that in the chat box. So, or the Uber Eats.
Okay. Also, John, I can see when I go to my company account, I see there are, when I go to my name at the bottom,
Yep.
my profile, I see two organizations, Westcon Group and Westcon Middle East and Comstore.
Yep.
So I am right now logged into Middle East and Comstore. So I want to know, is there some specific company I should be logged in? Or
I don't think it matters as long as you're consistent. So whatever account you want to use, whichever organization you want to use, as long as you take all your exams through that, you should be fine.
Okay.
Okay. Now, if you move to other organizations, if you send us an email, that's to say, send an email to training@sumologic.com. We can move your certifications from one email to another. So if you change companies or whatever, you want to take your certifications with you, that's an easy thing for us to do.
Okay. Sounds good.
Yep. And Mario, I understand you got an error with your email verification. You may want to just double check. It may have thrown an error, but you might be able to access it. I've seen that happen before. If that doesn't solve it, you may have to reach out to our support folks and ask them.
Okay, I give it a try. Thank you.
Yeah, try it. I bet you it'll work.
Okay.
Any other questions here, ladies and gentlemen? Okay, let me stop the recording.